This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Hey everybody, welcome. I am super excited to have James Kawainui. Did I get that right? I hope so. Okay, good. Here to help me with this mission I have to change the world one brave word at a time. You guys, James is a native Hawaiian healer, trusted guide and mentor who will clear energetic blocks from this or past life trauma and programming. Freedom, hope, and serenity is what you will feel. James's life is devoted to helping people live positive, productive, pain-free lives. And you guys are going to be all hooked up in our show notes with his website, jameskawainui.com. Welcome, James.
Good morning.
You know, it's good for me to practice those kinds of names early in the morning. Gets my brain functioning well. You know, go ahead.
Hawaiian is very phonetic.
Yes, that's
and
helpful.
So if you break everything down into the syllables, you get to really easy. That's kind of the clue for anybody that goes to Hawaii that's looking at a very long Hawaiian name or something like that. So break it into syllables.
Yeah, phonetic works way better for me. I love that. All right, so listen, tell us your story. Like, how did you get to this place of doing what you do now? I know that story is probably pretty long, but give us your short version of it.
I'll give you the short version. I would say about 30 years ago, people started showing up and asking me to do stuff for them. And I wasn't sure what was going on, but I realized after doing it that I had a way of being able to find where people's pain was on their bodies and doing things even before I knew what I was doing, and things would go away and they would look at me and say that that was a miracle or that was amazing, and walk away and I would be dumbfounded. About 20 years ago, I had what people would consider my calling. I had a very different job than I do now, had a tap on the back of the head and a voice that said, it's time to go home. I left and I quit everything that I had. I sold everything I had. I lived in a not in a grass shack, but in a shack on the beach for 4 years. And in those 4 years, I started to learn what that was about. And that was that I had this lineage that went back many generations in Hawaii, and that I come from a family of healers. Some people would call them, we would be the equivalent of what shaman would be in other indigenous cultures. And the last 20 years has been this journey of understanding what that means and how I show up in the world and how I work with people. That would be the shortest version I can think of.
God, I think you did a really good job, because I know a little bit about, you know, where you've been and what you've been doing. And I'm really fascinated by the journey that you've taken to get here. One of the things that you wanted to talk about today was people's response in the world versus their reaction. So like, I know that when you're coming from a place of awareness and you're responding to life versus reacting, this can be a massive game changer. So talk to me about the unconscious reactions in our lives.
You know, scientists have proven through research that by the time we're in our mid-30s, between 85 and 90% of what we do is automated responses to, and some of it makes sense, because to be able to drive and walk and speak and eat and everything else like that, those are all learned responses. Those are all learned behaviors. But buried inside of that is the behaviors also of how we react emotionally to the world and with people around them. And so it's this recognition, once you get on what people say the path, the spiritual path, of this growing awareness of how much we actually are not in awareness of what we are doing and saying with around with us, in the world, basically. I mean, just as simple as watching the words that we use and the language that we use and how that impacts everything on a daily basis. We get so used to saying, somebody says, "How's it going?" and everybody goes, "Oh, okay." When reality is it's not okay, but we don't know, it's so automatic that it's just what we do. And the way that we are in relationship with people, the way that we are in relationship with the world around us, all in some ways becomes automatic reactions. And then when we go deeper into that, then we find out that the reactions and a lot of the things that we're doing are things obviously that we're taught. And so this is where, when we start talking about generational programming, and I'm jumping way ahead really quickly, but we start talking about how and I know all of you have had this, where you're saying something to your kid and all of a sudden you go, "Oh my God, I sound like my mom." Because that's where we learned it, right?
Definitely. Oh my gosh. Okay, you can't jump too far ahead yet, because I definitely want to talk about that generational programming. However, I want to stay with awareness for just a moment, because of how foundational and important it is. So, this awareness practice is what helps us catch ourselves, like in that reaction, in a trigger or whatever, that conditioned reaction. And
Right.
I've been practicing to get, myself to practice the highest level of awareness as fast as possible in my moments. Like, I know we don't have to stay in a reaction or a trigger for very long, maybe even just seconds when we get really better at it, right?
Exactly.
But I remember a day when it was weeks. And what I want to know from you is, like, what's one of your ninja moves when it comes to awareness in your own life? How do you practice having it happen a little faster?
It's a really good question, and I've never thought about it that way. And the thing that I will just say, the thing that comes into my mind first off when we say that is that move of becoming really aware of what I'm saying and the words that I'm using. And then the other place inside of that really starts to change is that when I can start to feel the reactions that my body is having, because most people speak and they're not paying attention to the reaction that it's having physically on them. When I get physically ill, when I'm about to do something that is very scary, right? What is that ill feeling, or that weird feeling, that ookie in your stomach is what I call it, right? And to be able to see that as I'm moving through my day, and you're right. I say awareness is we create spaces between the trigger and the response, because your computer, that is your brain, is so wired to respond and react automatically. And that's where the non-thinking comes in. So the place where we create this space where what's happening in front of me, and I'm not automatically reacting to it, but I'm actually going, okay, this just happened. I know what I would do, but in this situation, do I do that or do I do something different? And so that's kind of the awareness that we build. And even though it sounds like it takes a long time because I'm speaking it, when it happens in your brain, that it becomes this place where now I know that I have a choice, or I'm realizing that I have a choice, right? Same way when I'm reacting or when I'm sitting in front of someone. In that moment of whatever that is happening with my interaction, right? People say projecting energy. Let's just say it that way. In that moment, I have this choice of realizing that that's happening and going, oh, wait a minute, this is you, and not having to take that energy on, right? And so then that's the space where I become in awareness of this is what's happening in my world, and I'm not reacting anymore. I'm listening to this, and then I'm responding to wherever you are. And so I don't take the energy on for myself. And that's what happens to a lot of people, I think, is we take the energy on of the things and the people that are around us without us realizing that. So
you said a couple of really important things, as far as I'm concerned. The first and most important was that if you connected with the way that you feel in your body and you realize what you're making that feeling mean, you know, if you can slow the train down before the words spit out your mouth or whatever the reaction is, then you get the choice, right? That awareness gives you the choice. And because those feelings can feel really bad, sometimes it's hard not to just react. But the other thing you said also is you're having a conversation with it, which I think is next level awareness. Seriously, if you can observe what's happening in your own mind and body, and you could be like, oh, I see what you're doing there again, you know, and choose something else. But you rolled into something that I want to talk about more. You know, listen, there are days when it feels like something takes over, and I can feel the not so good feelings, but they don't seem to be coming from me, or I can't think of anything I did that would have like created that, you know, that feeling that comes over me or comes at me. And you just mentioned people around us. So I want to get into this piece just a little bit deeper for people so they really understand the effect of other people's energy. Tell me a little bit more about why that's so important that we understand that. And then again, I want a ninja move today, James. I want you to talk to me about how you do it when like you're in a situation.
Well, you know, I know that most of you, this is kind of common knowledge now that we say we are connected, right? And all indigenous cultures understand that connection. And so inside of that connection means that we're constantly unconsciously aware of the people that are around us, right? We feel what everybody feels. So think about being at a football game or at a concert, right? And you feel the ebb and the flow of the energy of the feelings of the people around us. A sad song makes everybody sad. A happy song makes everybody happy. We're connected to the energy around us, right? And that's one of the things that we don't realize. So they call it, you know, I call it the collective, I'm not, you know, I didn't coin that term. I'm just using it. And so we're connected to the collective of everything. And you look at everything that's happened this year with the pandemic and the election and just all of the insanity that's been out there. We are all affected by it, even though we may not realize it on a day-to-day, individual to individual basis, right? And so one of the things that I do, especially if and I say, this is the way that I explain this, if I'm bopping along in my day and I'm in a really good mood or I'm in a really good place, and then all of a sudden I notice that my mood changes or my energy changes, right? Can I stop in that moment and become aware and then just go into this place of looking at that and go, wait a minute, my energy just changed, something just shifted. Is that my energy? Or is that somebody else's energy? You know, so if there was a ninja move, it's getting to the point where we look at that and go, wait a minute, something shifted. Is that me? And it's not, and is it someone else? And what I've learned in my body is if it's my energy, it kind of feels like this, and I feel it inside of me or on me. When it's somebody else's energy and I realize that it's not my energy that I'm feeling, I literally feel it move off of me. And that's the easiest way that I can explain it, because then it feels like I can understand it or recognize it, but I'm not having to experience it. And maybe this is one of the places where we talk about that, right? Is the difference between sympathy and empathy. And I think people get this, they mistake this. Sympathy means I feel your pain. Empathy means I understand your pain. So if I'm being sympathetic, that means everything that you're experiencing, I'm experiencing too. If I'm being in empathy, if I'm carrying an energy of being empathetic, right? Then I'm saying is, I understand where you are. And even if you just take that concept into your head for a few seconds, you can feel the difference. Does that make sense?
Do you have to have sympathy to have empathy? Do you have to be able to feel it to understand it?
Well, this is the thing that I've seen and I've understood just from doing the work for so long. As soon as I say, I feel your pain, unconsciously what my brain is doing is just going back and finding the different areas in my life where I experience what you're experiencing so we can connect. And I tell people this all the time. Most relationships are built on pain. That's the common denominator that we have, is pain. Because not very many people get taught how to be happy.
That's so true.
Right?
We're really good at suffering. You know, we
We're really
practice
good at
it from
suffering.
the beginning.
And so in that sympathetic place where I go, I feel your pain, so I can so that I can feel emotions and be in the same place that you are. When I'm in empathy and I say, I understand you, right? I understand where you're coming from. I understand your pain. And I do it this way, but it's not that I'm better or anything else, but then the energy level changes. And inside of that place of going, I understand your pain, it gives me a feeling of being able to see farther out and maybe being able to see a different perspective than somebody that's locked inside of where they are. Does that make sense?
It does. So what if you are waking up in the morning, literally just waking up, and you're feeling that not so good thing? And you're opening your eyes, and like maybe you had a dream, and you haven't even gotten yourself to the bathroom yet, and you're already feeling a form of negativity. And for me, it's like I'll wake on those days thinking, wow, what the, like, come on. So do you like to talk about dreams and sleep time according to the topic we're discussing?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, God, were you in my head this morning?
Oh, good. Okay.
Because I did. I got up this morning and there was this thing that went through me, and it was like I was in this place of worrying. And I was worrying about something that doesn't usually show up for me, and did it come out of a kind of a disturbed dream? I think it did, because I kept trying to reach back to find that dream and I couldn't find it, but I felt this energy in it. And so, a lot of times, and this was at 4 o'clock or 4:30 this morning, which is when they usually wake me up anyway, but that's beside the point. In that moment, when you feel that, what I did was I just went back to sensation in my body, right? And so I taught myself to come back and just go, okay, I feel what that is. I know that that's not true because I can see where my life is and everything that's around me. So I've taught myself to either step back into the gratitude really quickly and go, wait a minute, I know that that's not true. There's some other part that's trying to take over here. And then also at the same time, then to make everything as physical as I can, and not to have my brain and my mind take over and run amok.
Yes.
I would just step back into a process of breathing and just become very physical with my breath, and usually within 30 seconds or so, I'm back.
Yes.
And I ring off space, and my brain's taking me out, I can tell you in my corporate, there you are.
Yeah, we've had a little freezing moment. I think you were about to say in my corporate years.
Yeah, I always found that it was fascinating, and I didn't realize that I had any method of control over this. But I would wake up in the morning, and my first breath would be clear. I would realize that there was nothing there, right? And then in my very next breath, I would think, oh my God, I'm already behind schedule. My day is going to be shit.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. And I was, as I went back and I started looking at my life, and I realized that I woke up in a panic every day. And I wonder how many people actually do that, especially given what's happened this year, right?
Right. Yes.
So it's in some ways, it's from the very moment you wake up in the morning is to go, okay, here I am, I'm in bed. I have a roof over my head, my cat is sleeping at the foot of my bed, so I become in as present as possible. I guess we haven't talked about presence yet, but this is really what we're talking about, is being present. Right.
I love that. I love it. Actually, you talked about two moves that are really key. The gratitude to the physicality. So right away. So like I said, you get better and better at the awareness,
Yeah.
so that when you open your eyes in the morning, you're already conscious enough to practice it if you're feeling that way. But thank you for the reminder, because for some reason for me, when it's that first morning time, I fall out of my practice a little. It's not as easy to go right there, but it's the same for all the moments, no matter what time of day they happen, right? It's just a matter of if you can get there.
I think also, Laura, you're bringing up a really good point, and this is something that I talk with lots of people about, is do you have a daily practice?
Yeah.
We've been talking about a spiritual practice. We can say it's a meditation practice, but I took all of the words away because it conjures up all kinds of things that people think about, like meditation is sitting on a cushion, dressed in white with my legs crossed, my eyes rolled back in my head. It's like, no. What's the practice that you do to put yourself in state, is what one of my teachers would say. Tony Robbins would say that too, right? Put yourself in state so that you can go on with your day. And that is more important, I think, right now than anything else that we can do, is that place of, and it doesn't have to be 20 or 30 minutes or an hour. It can be 5 minutes. Everybody's got 5 minutes. Everybody's got 5 minutes where I can just go inside myself, focus, find the beauty inside of my life, and then have this go, how do I want my day to go? Do I want to be behind schedule, catch every red light? Or do I want this smooth flow and transition, and I get everything done that I need to get done, right? I make that declaration to myself on a daily basis, and I watch how that shows up in my world. It becomes, with the people, I have a mentoring program, and the people that I work with in the mentoring program, when they start recognizing in that daily practice, because they get to the place where they miss it when it's not there, and they see the results of the day when they don't do that, and they actually say, I didn't do it today, and my day was, excuse my language, my day was shit.
Yeah, it didn't turn out.
Those 5 minutes, or those 5 to 10 minutes, or even those 3 minutes you take in the morning is so important, because it sets the rest of the day.
All right, so I don't want to miss this one topic. I want to spend a few minutes on one more thing today. So you help people heal from trauma and deal with trauma. But one of the topics we were going to talk about was this generational programming, and we mentioned it a few minutes ago. I think I know just enough to be dangerous here. So tell us what we need to know about this.
Okay. The thing that I think that people don't understand is, so I'm just going to talk about trauma in general. Okay. Whenever we have a traumatic experience, there are physiological things that happen inside of our body. And in essence, in any trauma experience that we've had, the body literally takes a snapshot picture of whatever that is in that moment, right? The snapshot picture is the chemicals and the enzymes and the amino acids that create the feeling that runs through our body. That becomes imprinted inside of us. When a traumatic experience is so deep, it actually changes the vibration and the frequency of our body, where it will alter DNA. Now, a lot of people aren't talking about it that way, but that's really what happens. It alters the DNA. Now, if we had a traumatic experience in our family, so I'm going to use one that I see, that I've talked with people about before. So children of Holocaust survivors, I'm just going to use that one, okay? In that moment of the trauma that happened, the vibration and the frequency inside of the body changed, where it changed the DNA. It becomes part of who we are. So now when we have children, that DNA imprint already being inside of us gets handed over, just like hair color, shape of our eyes, body structure, sometimes even voice. I worked with somebody a few years ago, 5 generations of people that were deaf, because that was the DNA transfer that happened in their family. So the way that generational programming happens is fascinating. Alcoholism is one of those ones. Depression can be one that happens like that. And so in that moment, This is the quickest, explanation I can give you, right? In that moment of whatever that feeling is, being able to go inside, experience it in your body, go inside, and then go, of the feeling that I'm feeling inside of me, how much of this is actually mine? And when you bypass the conscious mind and you can touch the unconscious, you get to this place where you realize that most of the time the feelings that we're feeling are not mine at all, but it's something that either I was taught or has been imprinted on me. That's the easiest and fastest I can say about the cellular programming and about the generational stuff.
And I think what I want to encourage our viewers with here is that, you know, a lot of people have lost hope in terms of their own healing. And when you start to really think about topics like this, you should be excited. You should feel some hope in terms of, you know, what if there's something that you just haven't had the proper guidance with that could be at the root cause of, and then you guys fill in the blank with whatever that issue is, right? Yeah, wow. Okay, you know, that's going to be like a whole nother second show, James.
Well,
Tell us.
We want to talk a little bit more about that. I'd be glad to come back and talk about that. But it's so impactful, because once we get to that place and we realize how much is not ours, and it really is the physical reaction of what happens when I let go of all of that. And I've watched people do that where there's something that has been generations old. I got so many stories about stuff like that, and I know we don't have time for any of them, so I'm not even going to go into that. But, you know, there is hope.
Yes. And it's a huge feeling of relief as you speak about it. I can feel that. Yeah. James, tell everybody what you have coming up and how we can get a hold of you. What do you have going on right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm writing a chapter in volume 4 of The Ultimate Guide to Healing. So it's like, yeah.
Fantastic.
Exactly. I'm super happy and grateful to be able to do that. Coming up, I have a new program where I'm creating personalized meditations for people. Remember, we were talking about daily practices. And so giving people that personal meditation that they can carry with them for wherever they are in their lives. That's something that I have coming up right now. I'm creating a group mentoring program next year for people. I was writing everything down this morning, writing the teaching memoir, obviously, of the stories that I've gathered over the years. Looking for speaking opportunities, and like everybody else, you know, we're all in the same, I don't say the game, but we're all in the same process of being available to people to help, you know, in whichever way we can. You can find me at jameskawainui.com, and if you haven't already noticed, I love to talk, so call me.
James, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with us.
I appreciate that and grateful for the time, Laura. Thank you.
So you guys really do take that next step. Drop down into those show notes. You're going to find the website. You could reach James, contact him, have a discussion about all of these things that you're hearing today. And I'll leave you with just one powerful question. What if there's something you haven't learned yet about your healing that could change everything? It's time to be brave, you guys. See you next time. Thank you, James. Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.